Now my pleasure to introduce my co-chairman, Stanley Fahn. Stan has really been the driving force behind the World Parkinson's Congress. Not content to founding the Movement Disorder Society, he's now set up another flourishing meeting to enable us all to get together and exchange ideas, and it's my pleasure to hand over to him now.
Thank you very much, Andrew, and it was a great pleasure to have you co-chair this particular Congress for us. What you see on this slide is the history of the Congress. This is only the second one. The first one was 4 years ago in Washington. We had another excellent turnout there. We were enthusiastic, but by the time we finally got around to figuring how to make the second one, it was 4 years later. So without wasting any time and any of the enthusiasm we get from each Congress, we already decided on the third Congress, which will be 3 years from now in the great city of Montreal in Quebec, Canada. We are very pleased to be here in Glasgow. Glasgow's been very welcoming to us with banners and helping us in many ways. The marketing commission here was very friendly and gave us some free videotape advertisements, and altogether we had a great reception in Glasgow, and we're very pleased to be here. So we thank the Lord Provost for his hospitality. I've been asked to say a few words about the history. I mean, this is still a new venture, really. Where did the idea of a World Parkinson come from? I wish I could say that I could take the credit. I really can't. The idea came from, at that time in 2003, the director of the National Institutes of Health in Bethesda, Maryland, in the United States. He was meeting with some Parkinson scientists and researchers and more or less asked them, why don't you guys get together and have a general world meeting with all the patients and the doctors and the scientists all together? And I wasn't at that meeting, however. But Robin Elliott, then and still the executive director of the Parkinson's Disease Foundation in the United States, came back from the meeting and told me about it, and encouraged me to take the lead and try to get this thing off the ground and going. It seems like nobody else was doing it from that meeting. So I accepted the challenge, but I had to go over with him. What's the idea of this? What's the purpose of having a World Parkinson Congress? And of course, it came immediately to both of us that this would be a forum, educational, scientific forum, in which all the people interested in Parkinson's disease, the stakeholders of Parkinson's disease, and that starts, of course, with the people who have the Parkinson's itself, and their family members and their caregivers, but also the doctors who look after them, who do clinical research and treat them, the scientists who do basic science, may never have met a Parkinson person before, but they've been working on it. This would be a great time for them to come together. And then there are the nurses and the physical therapists, the occupational therapists, speech therapists, lots of people involved, and certainly the pharmaceutical companies. They're all involved with Parkinson's, and we have to wait to bring them together, and this Congress was the way to do it. So that was the major focus. Hopefully it would stimulate interdigitation among the parties here. New ideas would be created. People would go away enthusiastic and work harder. Effort to conquer Parkinson's disease. So that was 2003. Well, how did we get going? We needed to form a legal entity. So in 2004, we set up an entity called the World Parkinson Congress, Inc. It was tax exempt, charitable, and only recently, in this past year, from my colleague Joseph Jankovic, who's sitting in the front row, suggested, why don't we call it World Parkinson Coalition, because that's really what it is. It's going to run the Congress, and that's how we got the idea in the first place to call it Congress, but having all the stakeholders together is really a coalition. So we've changed the name officially as World Parkinson Coalition, Inc. So the next step in 2004 is selecting the city, and we picked Washington, D.C. It was a perfect time of the year. Congress was adjourned, not in session. The convention center was open, and we grabbed that date. And so the meeting was planned for February 2006. And we had to obtain loans. How can we hire anybody to help run the meeting? How can we get meeting planners? How can we rent a convention center? So we got loans at that time from very charitable organizations like the Parkinson's Foundation, the Michael J. Fox Foundation, the National Parkinson Foundation, and others. And that gave us the head start to at least we had some money in the bank to start hiring. And of course, I think the most important event happened after that. We needed somebody to work with who could do the day-to-day management of the Congress, and we needed somebody reliable, friendly, efficient, and we were very fortunate because Elizabeth Pollard was selected. She was an applicant. There were probably others, but Robin Elliott screened them and came up with Elizabeth Pollard, Eli, and I interviewed her also, and it was hiring at first sight. We knew that she's got the wherewithal to do this, and we were so pleased. It was very helpful. And so we formed committees, fundraising committees, and program committees, and so forth, and steering committees to run the organization. Of course, we needed more money than the loans. We wrote grants to the United States Department of Defense and the National Institutes of Health. They gave us grants. These were not loans. These were competitive grants. We got funds from them. The Movement Disorder Society was very interested. They wanted to do work with the patients too, so they asked to help join us, and they would help do the fundraising with pharmaceutical companies. They were going to raise money themselves for their own Congress, which was 6 months earlier, and why not raise money for both? And not only that, but they made a commitment. They so wanted to support us that if we didn't get enough money, they would underwrite any expenses that were an overrun. And so they came through with us in that, and so we ended up, we're very close, but there was still about $100,000 shy, and the Movement Disorder Society very lived up to their word and came up with the money that allowed us to be debt-free. And also we had many organizational partners around the world, many Parkinson organizations and many professional groups joined in. There was no charge to them, but they would endorse basically the Congress. So the Congress took place in February 2006. It was a wonderful turnout. Over 3,100 attendees participated from 56 countries. Even more countries this year, but that was a great turnout in Washington. Well, as Eli Pollard might have mentioned to individual people, shortly after that we were so enthusiastic we wanted to have another Congress and where we're going to have it. Finally got around to it in 2007. Many of the institutions, organizations that loaned us the money, we asked them could they make that loan into a gift, into a grant, and give us some startup funds to get this Congress going. And most of them did, particularly the Parkinson's Foundation, the Michael J. Fox Foundation. Parkinson UK came through, and that's one of the reasons we can get the money to start looking at sites and start planning committees and having them meet. I asked Professor Lees to join me as co-chair. Being in the UK, he knows everything here, and I wanted a UK partner, and also to relieve some of the burden of this. So thank you, Andrew, for very enthusiastic support. That was very helpful, and together we were able to organize everything. We then selected Glasgow as the site, and I had a trip here to visit the convention center, and we selected it, and that worked out as well. I think you're all pleased here. There's a great convention center, and I hope you're all happy with it. By the following year, we had organized all the committees, the steering committee, the program committee, which first met in June of 2008. And developing a program is very difficult when you have a mixed audience, a mixed attendance. They had to have something for the patients who are not scientists, something for the scientists. Some of them might not even know what Parkinson's disease is in terms of the clinical features. So, and something for the doctors who take care of them. So something had to be done, and we had a great program committee formed this year with Ted Dawson as the chair. And then we had to get funds again, and again, the U.S. Department of Defense, the Telemedicine and Advanced Technology Research Center awarded us funding, and in early May 2008. That was very important. We didn't have enough money in the bank to pay the down payment for the convention center, to have the meetings, to pay Elizabeth Pollard's salary. We needed funds, and instead of waiting till near the end when maybe other monies would come through, we needed it so much, we needed it right away, and the Department of Defense came through immediately, gave us the money, and that kept us afloat. And then this year, we finally had applied to the National Institutes of Health again, and again they came through, and we got funds from them. And those are our two biggest sources of funding, the Department of Defense and National Institutes of Health. That came through in the last one in April. And then, again, another highlight this year, which we never had before. One of the committees, and I'll say more about it later, developed a Global Parkinson Pledge. It was adopted by steering committee. It's being printed out. It'll be on display at this Congress. We want everybody to sign it. I was told by Eli that the Scottish Parliament of 126 members, 93 already signed this pledge. We're hoping everyone here in this room, and those who have not even arrived yet, will sign this pledge. We're looking to have 1 million signatures from around the world before the Montreal meeting in 2013. Now, I'm going to interrupt the rest of my talk for a minute just to give you an announcement for something happening tomorrow. 3 days ago, we received word of a late-breaking result in genetics. We thought it was sufficiently important that we'd like to introduce the outcome and the results of that to this Congress here, and where to put it. So the chairman of the program committee, Ted Dawson, and the two co-chairs of tomorrow's plenary session on genetics are adding this talk to the end of that session. So the session will last another 15 minutes, allow a 10-minute talk and 5 minutes of questions and answers. So we're going to hear that. I'm not telling you what the results are, because I don't want to give it away from the speaker. But so come tomorrow morning for the plenary session, and you'll hear this new development. So at this time, I want to finally close by thanking our major financial supporters. Without funds, we could not carry this out. We are still hoping that we'll be softened at the end of this Congress. There's a lot of costs involved, bringing in all the speakers and their hotels and all the costs of the convention center and so forth. So here are some of the organizations that provided major support. We had many others and lesser support, but the Parkinson UK, Parkinson's Disease Foundation, Michael J. Fox Foundation, Melvin Yarr International Parkinson's Disease Foundation, Movement Disorder Society, the Edmund J. Safra Philanthropic Foundation, the National Parkinson Foundation, the Israel Neurological Association, the American Physical Therapy Association, and the Fondazione, I have to say my Italian, Grigioni. Sorry for my Italian colleagues, I'm not up to speed on that. We thank them very much. And then there are companies, pharmaceutical companies that have helped us tremendously. The first one on top of the list is our platinum sponsor, which is Solvay Pharmaceuticals, which is now known as Abbott. Solvay came in early. They were enthusiastic about it. They gave us the money up front. They wanted to be the platinum sponsor. And despite the fact that they were then bought by another company, Abbott, they continued with their commitment. They're present here at this Congress, and they're sponsoring some of the sessions, and of course have an exhibit. We hope we can recognize how much they've helped us. And then we have gold sponsors: Orion Pharma with Novartis Pharma AG, Teva Pharmaceuticals Industry combined with H. Lundbeck AS, and Boehringer Ingelheim Limited. Our silver sponsors: Medtronic, GlaxoSmithKline, Chelsea Therapeutics, and our bronze sponsor, Merck Serono. So I hope we all give them a hand, all these sponsors. A word of some special thanks. First to the Parkinson's UK. They went out of their way. They provided scholarships for 80 people to attend this Congress. They donated about 65 staff members as volunteers. They donated funding for public relations activities. And they have been promoting the Global Parkinson's Pledge. And also to the Parkinson's Disease Foundation. They hosted the entire Creativity and PD exhibit. They created the first ever Parkinson's quilt. That will be on display in the exhibit hall. A marvelous quilt, and you might have hints of it in your program guide. They helped with outstanding promotion in the United States, and they also donated legal and staff time. I want some special rounds of applause for certain people that I have to single out. The first is Dr. Ted Dawson, the chair of the program committee. This is an arduous task, getting his committee to find the right speakers, the right programs, which rooms to assign people to, and then at the last minute, we had last minute cancellations. Some of the speakers were ill. We had to find substitutes. This was a tremendous head-aching producing job, and Ted Dawson came through in his brilliant manner, quiet way of dealing with it. So Ted Dawson, thank you very much. And what could we do without fundraising? The two co-chairs, Joseph Jankovic in the United States and Werner Pove in Europe, helped raise the funds. You saw the listing of the fundings I just had a couple slides ago. And without their hard work, we wouldn't be here either. Thank you, Joe and Werner. And I mentioned Robin Elliott before. He is still very active with the Congress. He co-chairs the Organization and Government Relations Committee. And it was that committee that created, drafted, and refined the Global Parkinson Pledge, which you will see as it's going to be printed out and later put into the Convention Center exhibit hall. Thank you, Robin. And from Parkinson's UK, we have Steve Ford and Nicola Bryan. They're the co-chairs of the Communications Committee, and all their colleagues. They did so much to help formulate the communications, the press room, and all the press coverage for this. Thank you, Steve and Nicola. And then Tom Isaacs. He led the first World Parkinson Congress Patient Advisory Committee. He joined the steering committee. He spent hours and hours reaching out to the patient community to get them involved, and he's going to continue to work. He's tireless. Tom, thank you very, very much. And Jean Burns, who I had just met tonight, but she had been working very hard and very creatively, pulled together the first WPC video competition. I was told, I haven't had the time to look at them myself, but apparently they are there on the web, and everybody should look at them. I heard they're terrific. We're going to hear more about that later tonight anyway, but I just want to make sure that Jean gets a round of applause from us. And of course, the most important person, Wonder Woman herself, Eli Pollard. I told you a lot about her already. I was so thrilled that she's staying with us, put together single-handedly, great organizational skills, great personal skills, worked with every single committee. When the program committee needed to meet, she worked with them. When they had to draft their design, she met with them. Fundraising committee, they met with Eli. She met with all the potential sponsors to try to help raise funds. Every single committee. In fact, she was the point person. We all agreed that we had anything to do, go through Eli. So she's the coordinator and the manager of this Congress. And Eli, I want you. We can't say enough about Eli. So thank you very much, everybody. Enjoy the Congress.